Hey there, friends. How's it going there? David Potts with Song Notes, and I made a new cheat sheet I wanted to share with you all today. It's the major pentatonic scales in open position, right? This is a 3-page PDF I have. It has on this first page, it looks at the C major pentatonic, G major, D major, A major, and E major pentatonic scales. They're written out in tab form. They're also written out in fretboard diagram form. And it's really meant to be a handy cheat sheet for you, a reference guide, right? Now, I'm in the process of planning a bunch of courses where I explain things like this step by step. I talk about the major scale, the pentatonic scale, the minor scale, arpeggios, how to practice these, and I do so in a step-by-step process. I don't have that ready for you yet, right? So in this video, I'm going to give you a quick tour of this PDF. Okay. Now, if scales are something that's new to you, this might not be the most fully explanatory video, right? I would really recommend actually my practical music theory course where I talk about the 12 notes, I talk about the major scale, how it's built using a single pattern, I talk about the idea of scale degrees and intervals, and I do it in a real step-by-step process. So that exists for you. It's on my Song Notes website. There's PDFs for each lesson. It's a real handy resource there, right? I also have this lesson, number 477, where I look at the major scales in open position, right? And it's the same 5 keys in this case, right? C major, G major, D major, A major, and E major. And for each of those keys, I show you the major scale written out in tab form again with the fretboard diagram next to it. And really the idea is to give you this handy reference guide. If you ever are just curious, what are the notes again at play when I'm in the key of G in open position, right? This PDF will be your friend, okay? Now, I was practicing the other day and I was realizing I didn't have anything for the pentatonic scale. So I wanted to put this cheat sheet together and just share it, especially recently with some of these lessons I've done. I did Amy by Pure Prairie League, that intro riff, which is entirely built with the A major pentatonic scale, right? Now in that lesson, we're going up the fretboard a little bit, but the notes we're playing, you can all play in open position, right? And that's what makes the keys of C, G, D, A, and E major special. It's just the way the guitar is built, right? When the Council of Guitar Wizards agreed upon what the names of the 6 strings were going to be and what the 12 notes were and all that sort of thing that I don't really have any understanding of, I don't think it's a mistake that at the end of the day, we have these 5 chords, which are the 5 major chords you should learn first, right? Your C, your G, your D, your A, your E. And likewise, we have the major scale and the pentatonic scales we can play based around those chords, all of which are in open position. Now, what's special about these 5 chords, let me say this another way, they're the only 5 major chords that you can play in open position without any barring, right? Your F sharp, right? Your A flat, your B flat, your B, those all require barring, right? So they're not what are called open chords. So open chords work well with the guitar. They benefit from open strings, right? And what's really cool is if I take the C major scale, right? I could play that with my hand relatively in place around that C major triad. And likewise, the C major pentatonic scale, right? I could do that, basically, I could strum a C chord. I barely had to move my hand at all. I'm just sort of taking fingers off and moving fingers back on. Same with the G chord, right? I could play the G chord, then I could do the G major pentatonic. I was able to do that by keeping my hand basically in the chord position, right? So the C major and the G major chords and their respective pentatonic scales are probably the most beginner-friendly of anything because you just basically put your fretting hand in that chord shape, and then it's a matter of simply adding a finger here, removing a finger there. So my PDF will have you covered. Now, when you get into the D major pentatonic, A major pentatonic, and E major pentatonic, things get a little bit trickier. You have to move your hand a little bit more, and it gets kind of harder and harder with D and a little bit harder with A and even a little bit harder still with E, right? So again, this order of chords, C, G, D, A, and E, it is not arbitrary. I partially selected it because it's the easiest in that order, I would argue, but some of you might notice there's some musical stuff going on here. From C to G is a fifth. From G to D is a fifth. From D to A is a fifth. from A to E is a fifth, right? I'm just following the circle of fifths. You also could look at it with regard to the order of sharps, which is something a bit more complicated that with guitar isn't really that helpful. It's more helpful on piano, right? But the order of sharps, C major, the C major scale has no sharps. The G major scale has 1 sharp. The D major has 2 sharps. A has 3 sharps. E has 4 sharps. So I'm just going down the order of sharps. I'm going down the circle of fifths. I'm also going in order of difficulty, right? So again, that's why I joked about the wizards who decided how the guitar was built and everything. I think it's no mistake. I'm going to start with the easy stuff and sort of recommend you start with those. But also, these are the 5 chords that we can play that benefit from the open strings, okay? That all might be a little bit confusing for you. So again, see my practical music theory course if you're totally new to the idea of scales and everything and you kind of want to get an idea of how the major scale works. But about the pentatonic, I haven't covered anything yet in my existing lessons about the pentatonic as far as how is it built. So that's what I'm going to do in the next just couple minutes. And I will return to this topic. Again, I want to put together more of a step-by-step course that walks you through this as opposed to me rushing an explanation in a few minutes, right? But as far as a quick explanation, if you take any major scale, so say we take the C major scale, it's just 7 notes, okay? Now, if we were to write these notes out, right, on a sort of like number line kind of thing, right, you're going to notice that no matter which major scale you're playing, this is the case, the 3rd and the 4th note are right next to each other, and then the 7 and the 1 are right next to each other. Those are the only 2 pairs of notes that are sort of next door neighbors, right? Every other note has like a little bit of space in its yard, so to speak. Now, here's the deal, okay? When notes are right next to each other, they can kind of clash when they're played at the same time. The simple example is, okay, that's an example of 2 notes that are very dissonant, right? The frequencies, the literal frequencies are kind of clashing with each other, right? As opposed to if I played, you know, a major 3rd or a major 5th. These sound very like they go well together. I believe it's consonant, like the opposite of dissonant. I could be wrong about that, but it's just they sound harmonious, right? They sound good together. And hint, hint, the major chord, every major chord that you can possibly play is based off whatever your root note is, or your sort of starting note. You go up a major 3rd, and you go up a perfect 5th, right? That is our major triad. Those are the chord tones. So said another way, if we look at any major scale, and we take the 1st note, the 3rd note, and the 5th note, we play those at the same time, we get a major triad, a major chord. And major chords, they just sound good. All the notes sound good together, right? Now, here's the deal. That 1, that 3, that 5, those are our chord tones, okay? Again, those are the notes in the major scale that are in the major triad per that key. They sound good together. So they're kind of like the royalty or the aristocracy or whatever. I don't want to bring baggage into this. They're the special tones we don't really want to get rid of, right? All the other tones are kind of fighting for position there. And here's the deal. The 4th tone and the 7th tone, those are the ones, because they're right next door neighbors to chord tones, they kind of can clash, right? So those are the tones we're going to get rid of in the pentatonic scale. So quite simply, I should have said this a few minutes ago, the major scale is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? The pentatonic scale is just we get rid of the 4, we get rid of the 7. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. And I'm talking about scale degrees. And the reason I do that is because in every single key, the notes in your major scale and the notes in your major pentatonic are going to be different. But the scale degrees are 100% consistent. Every pentatonic scale, every major pentatonic is the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6, right? Again, the 1 is our root note. That's a special note. And from that note, we go up a whole step to the 2, a whole step to the 3. Then we have to jump up to the 5th. I can't do the math in my head. I think it's a whole step and a half, or it's 1.5 steps. And then up to the 6, which is another whole step. And then we go up another step and a half, 1.5 steps to the next root, okay? So if this is the C major scale, this is the C major pentatonic scale. Okay, so we're just getting rid of that 4 and the 7, and it's because those 2 notes can clash whenever we are playing over a C or anything in the key of C. Those are the 2 notes that are the most likely to cause dissonance. So we kind of just get rid of them. We can use them. You can invite them over here and there, but it's almost like, let's just start with the 1, the 2, the 3, the 5, and the 6. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but why? Like, why do this? What is the point? Is this all academic? Well, here's the deal. And this is almost kind of like proves the point, is that there's so many songs whose melody is built 100% with the pentatonic scale. And I would almost argue that like those songs' melodies come first, right? My Girl is a perfect example. That's the bass line to My Girl. That's just the pentatonic scale. I'm playing it in the key of C there. Okay, that's one example. How about CCR? So that's one example. Another example I just did is Amy by Pure Prairie League. That entire intro riff is all played with the A major pentatonic. Every single note, right? I just did a lesson on Billy Strings, his cover of Lonely at the Top. That entire intro riff, it's all major pentatonic, right?
I can just survive off that lick right there.
Sublime's solo for Santeria. Yeah, the first 6 notes. Bum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum. Major pentatonic, right? It's used all over the place. Once you sort of learn this or become aware of what those notes are, you sort of start to realize, oh man, like every melody I'm learning, not every melody, like, because obviously you have some that are going to use the 4th degree or the 7th degree, but so many melodies are all built with just the pentatonic notes, right? That's why it's worth learning. I'm not saying you need to get this PDF and practice this and memorize these things, but have it handy. Be aware it exists. And the next time you're working on melody notes for anything and you're curious, which scale degrees are these coming from? A lot of the time, you're going to be surprised it's coming from the pentatonic, the major pentatonic, and whatever key you're playing in. Okay? Now, there's all kinds of different directions I could go with this. What about when we switch chords? Do you keep playing the pentatonic of the key you're in, or do you switch your pentatonics? That's for another video. Okay, what about the minor pentatonic? That's for another video, right? There's tons of like little loopholes we go down, but again, I want to save that for a future course where I explain this step by step and everything, because I still have some things I'm learning myself, right? But in the meantime, what I want you to do is in the description of this video, you can get this PDF. Okay, it's available. The first page shows you the pentatonic tabs. It shows you the fretboard diagrams. The second page shows you how the pentatonic scale is formed with a visual example, starting with the major scale, looking at chord tones, getting rid of the 4 and the 7, right? And on the final page, I'll link out to a bunch of related lessons that I've made in case you want to sort of bolster your education on this topic with other things I've made. That includes my diagram on the major scales in open position. And this is the original PDF I was using. You'll just see, I was like playing around the kitchen one day, noodling around, adding a flourish to a C chord. And I was only using pentatonic tones. That was my challenge of my sort of living room warm up there. And I realized, it's just the major scale. You get rid of the 4 and the 7. And I took this PDF and I sort of scratched out the 4 and scratched out the 7. And that gave me the major pentatonic in tab form. So I wrote up this new PDF. It's available for you. So much more to cover on this topic, but I wanted to share this video in the meantime. And one bonus I have, if you head on over to my website, songnotes.net, on the lesson page for this, I have some backing tracks. They're single chord backing tracks. And the way you use those is you just put one on, right? You put on the C major. It's a single chord just strummed over and over again for 5 minutes. And it might sound like boring. It's not really musical, but what it lets you do is practice either the major scale or the major pentatonic scale. And what it lets you do is hear how those chord tones, right? The 1, the 3, and the 5. That's all a C major chord is. And those are tones that are in those 2 scales. So it helps you hear when those notes are being played, they sound really good along with the backing track, right? But when I'm playing any of the other notes, right, even in the major pentatonic, you have that second degree of the scale and that sixth degree of the scale. When you're playing those notes over the backing track, they're going to sound a bit off. They're going to sound uneasy. And if you hang out on them, it sounds more and more like the tension becomes kind of like of a deal breaker musically, right? It's like pulling that toast out of the toaster oven. You can hold it for a second or two, but it's almost like as a transition to the plate, right? So if your toaster is your root note and your plate is your third, it's almost like you're picking it up, that's your major second, and then you put it down. When it's in the toaster, it's fine. When it's on the plate, it's fine. But when it's in your hands, it burns, right? So that's kind of the idea with chord tones, right? You play chord tones over a backing track. It's a single chord backing track. They'll sound good. Any chord tone. Those other notes are kind of used as transitionary notes, okay? So there's so much more to get to on this topic, but I wanted to make this quick video and make sure you all had this as I put together the more sort of fully baked, course-like stuff on this topic, all right? So I hope you found this helpful. See the links in the description for more information for related lessons I've made, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.